بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأصلي وأسلم على نبينا Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Why is the head of an Islamic State called a caliph? A caliph, written by Islam Sif. Number 1, can we use any title for the caliph? Number 2, caliph of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, khalifatul Rasulullah. Number 3, Khalif of Allah, Khalifatullah. Number 1, the Abbasid Khalif used Khalifatullah as a title. 2, is it permitted to use the title Khalifatullah? Number 4, Imam. 5, custodian of the two holy mosques, Khadim al-Haramain al-Sharifain. 6, leader of the believers, Amirul Mu'mineen. 7, King Malik. 8, Sultan. 9, shadow of Allah, Zillullah. 10, first among equals. 11, conclusion. 12 notes. The term Khalifa or Caliph literally means successor or deputy. Imam al-Marwadi says, Imamate is prescribed to succeed prophethood as means of protecting the deen and of managing the affairs of this world. There is a consensus of opinion that the person who discharges the responsibilities of this position must take on the contract of Imamate of the Ummah. Throughout the Islamic history, the caliphs were known by multiple titles. But it is important to note that you don't need to specifically call a caliph to be a caliph. In fact, a leader today or in history may take a title used by caliph of the past, or even have the title caliph, but they are not caliphs. Can we use any title for the caliph? Abdul Qadim Zalum answers this question according to his opinion. He says, with regard to his title, it could be the Khalifa or the Imam or the Amir of the believers. It is not obligatory to adhere to these 3 titles. Rather, it is allowed to give whoever takes charge of the Muslim affairs other titles. Any other titles has, however, to indicate the same meaning as the ruler of the believers, or the head of the Muslims, or the Sultan of the Muslims, or any title that does not contradict with their meaning. As for titles which carry a specific meaning and which contradict the Islamic laws or the ruling, such as the title of king or president of the republic or empire, these are forbidden to be used by whoever takes charge of the affairs of the Muslims, because they contradict the meaning of the laws of Islam. As a principle, we should use the language of Islam when describing our laws, institutions, and systems. There has been a tendency in modern times to use Western terms, which causes confusion as to what political Islam actually is. Also distances us from our history. In 1953, the International Herald Tribune reported that the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan today, November 2, 1953, unanimously decided that under the new constitution, Pakistan shall be a republic, and its name shall be the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. There was no opposition from any member. Commenting on this choice of title, Bernard Lewis said, how far one may ask, can a republic, as that word is normally understood, be really and truly Islamic? That is to say, not simply in the sense of being a state with a Muslim population, but of being one that is really based on the principles of Islamic faith and law. How far is traditional or orthodox Islam compatible, even familiar with republican ideas and institutions? Therefore, a future Islamic state needs to choose the titles of its leaders, systems, and institutions which are aligned with Islamic traditions. What follows now is a list of the main titles used by the caliphs of the past, which are from the Islamic traditions and in line with the Islamic thought. Caliph of the Messenger, Khalifatul Rasulullah. After the death of Prophet Muhammad, the Muslim elected Abu Bakr as-Siddiq as the leader of the Islamic State. A debate then ensued on what title he should be given, because the Messenger of Allah in his dual role of prophet and ruler never had a separate title as a ruler, although أي نعم. After the death of the Prophet Muhammad, the Muslims selected Abu Bakr as-Siddiq as the leader of the Islamic State. The debate then ensued on what title he should be given, because the Messenger of Allah in his dual role of prophet and ruler never had a separate title as a ruler. Although before becoming Muslim, people used to call the Prophet Amir of Mecca and Amir of the Hijaz. The title Khalifa was already known to the Sahaba because the Prophet referred to his successors in ruling as Khulafa, Caliphs. The Prophet Muhammad was a ruler prophet like Dawood and Sulaiman, peace be upon them, before him. Prophethood has now ended, but ruling by the law Sharia that the Prophet ﷺ brought continues. He said, كانت بنو إسرائيل تسوسهم أنبياء كلما هلك نبي خلفه نبي وإنه لا نبي بعدي واستكونوا خلفاء فتكتر قالوا فما تأمرنا قالوا فو ببقية الأول فالأول وعاتوهم حقهم فإن الله سألهم أما استرعاهم. The prophets rule over the children of Israel. Wherever a prophet died, another prophet succeeded him, but there will be no prophet after me. They will soon be khulafa, and they will number many. Therefore, then do you orders? He said, fulfill the obey to them one after the other, and give them their dues for Allah, and for Allah will very account them about what He entrusted them with. Therefore, the Caliph assigns the Prophet ﷺ ruling only and not prophethood. This the Caliph is not sovereign. This is why Abu Bakr took the title Khalifa of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, Khalifa to Rasulullah ﷺ, or simply Khalifa. Al-Marwadi says he is called the Khalifa successors as he stands in for the Messenger of Allah at the head of his ummah, and so it is permitted for someone to say, "Oh, Khalifa of the Messenger of Allah," or for someone to say Khalifa on its own. Ibn Khaldun says political laws consider only worldly interest. On the other hand, the intention the lawgiver has concerning mankind is their welfare in the other world. Therefore, it is necessary as required by the religious law to cause the masses to act in accordance with the religious laws in all their affairs touching both this world and the other world. The authority to do so was possessed by the representative of the religious law, the prophets, then by those who took their place, the caliphs, Caliph of Allah, Khalifatullah. During the Umayyad period, some of the caliphs took the title Caliph of Allah, Khalifatullah, instead of Caliph of the Messenger of Allah. This continued during the Abbasid and Ottoman periods. Two modern Orientalists, Patricia Kron and Martin Heinz, focused much attention on this title and wrote an entire book called God's Caliph, implying that the divine right of kings, which existed in Europe under Christianity, also applied to the early caliphate, with the caliphate being a theocracy and the caliph a legislature that is so sovereign. They say, in short, the ultimate source of caliphate law was divine inspiration. Being the deputy of God on earth, the caliph was deemed to dispense the guidance of God himself. While the title Caliph of Allah was controversial in some circles, the use of the title never implied divinity or that the caliph was sovereign. It simply meant that the caliph has said of the Islamic State will implement the law of Sharia and look after the affairs of people according to this law. Ibn Khaldun says, Allah made the caliph his substitute to handle the affairs of his servant, is to make them to do things that are good for them and forbid them to do those that are harmful. This is based on the famous verse of the Holy Quran where Allah Ta'ala says, وَإِذَا قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً قَالُوا تَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَن يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ وَنُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ قَالَ إِنِّي أَعْلَمُ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. When the Lord said to the angels, I am appointing a caliph on the earth, they said, why put it on one who will cause corruption on it and shed blood when we glorify you with praise and proclaim your purity? He said, I know what you do not know. Ainam. Said Qutb comment on this verse. Allah in his infinite wisdom decided to hand over the earth's affairs and destiny to a man, give him a free hand to use, develop and transform all its energies and resources for the fulfillment of Allah's will and purpose in creation, and to carry out the preeminent mission with which he was charged. It may be assumed that then that man has been given the capability to take on the responsibilities and the necessary latent skills and energies to fulfill Allah's purpose on earth. It may therefore be concluded that a perfect harmony exists between those laws that govern the earth and the universe, and those governing man's powers and abilities. The aim of this harmony is to eliminate and avoid conflict and collision, and to save men's energies from being overwhelmed by formidable forces of nature. Al-Qurtubi says this is sound evidence for having a leader and a caliph who is obeyed, so that he will be a focus for the cohesion of society, and the rulings of the caliphate will carry it out. He also says, Caliph has the form of an active participle file, meaning the one who replaced the angels before him on the earth, or other than the angels. According to what has been reported, it's also possible that it is in the passive mode, ma'ful, in which case it means someone who is sent as a representative. The Abbasid caliphs used the Caliphatullah as a title. Hussein Ilima says since the late Abbasid period, the use of the Caliphate Rasul gradually disappeared from political literature in favor of Imam and Al-Khalifatullah. To point to the increasing criticism of this controversial title, Hussein stated that in the later Abbasid period, the designation of Khalifatullah for the Caliphs gained wide currency. In a marked distinction from the instance of earlier periods that the Caliph was only the Caliphate Rasulullah. Is it permitted to use the title Khalifatullah? Al-Marwazi answers this question. There is a difference of opinion as to where it is permitted to say, "Oh, Khalifatullah." Some have admitted this on the fact that he fulfills Allah's right over his creation, and because of his saying, "It is He who appointed you Khilafah." On the other, raise some of you above the others in rank. The majority of the ulama, however, do not permit this and treat those who do say this as corrupt, arguing that the Khalifa succeeds someone who is absent or dead, and Allah is not absent and does not die. When Abu Bakr as-Siddiq was addressed, "O Khalifa of Allah," he replied, "I am not a Khalifa of Allah, but rather the Khalifa of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam." Imam. This title is found in the Hadith and is used as a synonym for the Caliph. The Messenger of Allah sallam said, وَمَنْ بَاعَ إِمَامًا فَعَتُوهُ سَاقَةَ يَدِهِ وَتَمْرَةٌ قَلْبِهِ فَلْيُؤْتِيهُ إِنْ اسْتَطَاعَ. Whoever give a bear to an Imam, give him the clasp of his hand, and the fruit of his heart shall obey him as long as he can. The contract of bear is only for a Caliph. Rasulullah said, وَمَنْ مَاتَ وَلَيْسَ عَلَيْهِ إِمَامٌ جَمَاعَ فَإِنَّ مَوْتَهُ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ. If a person does not have an Imam of the Jamaat over him, then his death is a death of Jahiliyyah. The word Jamaat refers to the Muslim Ummah and not an individual group or a group prayer in masjid. In the fiqh books of the ulama such as Al-Marwazi, the term Imam and Imamate were used for more frequently than the terms Khalifa and Khilafa. Ibn Khaldun, in reference to the Islamic State, says the person in charge of it is called a Khalifa or the Imam. In later times, he has been called the Sultan when there were numerous claimants to the position, or when, in a view of the distance separating the different regions and in disregard of the conditions governing the situation, people were forced to render the bay'ah to anybody who sees power. Hope Kennedy, when discussing the titles used by the Caliph, mentions, we also find the use of the title Imam. Imam means essentially anyone who stands in front or leads. It often describes the prayer leader in a mosque. It also used specifically among the Shia to describe the ruler of the whole Muslim community, and as such, it's often a synonym for Caliph. Custodian of the two holy mosques, Khadimul Haramain al-Sharifain. The Mamluk sultans based in Cairo used the title Custodian of the two holy mosques, Khadimul Haramain al-Sharifain, which was then transferred to the Ottoman Sultan Salim I in 1517 after he conquered Egypt and brought the Mamluk Sultan under his authority. Today, the Saudi king holds this title, but he rules over a country whose systems and laws is the Mu'amalat societal transactions are for the most part not in accordance with the Sharia, and in some cases are manifest kufr bawa, such as implementing riba interest based on economy. 26. And facilitating material support to those who are committing genocide of Muslims in Palestine. Leader of the believers, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Ibn Sa'id narrated, when Abu Bakr died and Umar bin Khattab became Khalifa, Umar was called the Khalifa of the Messenger of Allah. The Muslims said, whoever comes after Umar will be called the Khalifa of the Khalifa of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is a lengthy agree on name by which successive Khulafa can be called. Some of the companions of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, we are the believers and Umar is our Amir. Umar should therefore be called the Amir al-Mu'mineen. He was the first to be called that. This title was prevalent throughout the Umayyad period of the Caliphate and continued into the Abbasid period. In relation to the post-1258 Abbasid Caliphs based in Cairo under the Mamluk Sultan, Mawlana Hassan says the new Caliphs are referred to Amir al-Mu'mineen, commander of the faithful, Khalifatul Muslimin, Caliph of the Muslims, Al-Imam, the leader, Mawlana al-Khalifa, our master the Khalif, and Al-Sayyid, the master. Although Hussein Ilma's comment, no Ottoman Sultan seems to have used commander of the faithful Amir al-Mu'mineen as the sovereign title. Hibatullah Akhundzada is the Amir of Islamic State of Afghanistan and holds the title Amir al-Mu'mineen, but is not a Caliph. King Malik. Abdul Qadim Zalu mentions that the word mulk, commonly as the monarchy, while it can have this meaning, it is also a synonym for ruling and authority. He says, ruling al-hukm, reign, al-mulk, and authority al-sultan have the same meaning, which is the authority that executes the rules. The Prophet ﷺ refers to the period after the rightly guided caliphate as a monarchy. This doesn't mean the caliph was a king in the sense of being sovereign, but the caliphate took on the characteristic of a monarchy with the introduction of the hereditary rule. The Messenger of Allah said, تكون خلافة 30 سنة ثم يصير ملكا. Khilafah will be the death for 30 years, then it will become mulk, monarchy. The hidden pronoun damir mustatir in the verb nasir is here, and it refers back to the word khalifa. This doesn't mean the khalifa will end after 30 years, right? It means the khilafah will continue but with the characteristic of mulk. Saifuddin al-Amidi, 1156 to 1233 CE, says he said, ثم تصير ملكا, then it will become a mulkan. The personal pronoun damir is in nasir al-mulk. Tasir al-mulkan refers to the khilafa. Since the mentioned verb cannot refer to anything other than the khilafa, it is as if it is saying, and then the khilafa becomes a mulk. It is judged that the khilafa will become a mulk, where the judgment on a being requires that the being itself still exists. Ibn Kathir says, the first monarchy began with the rule of Muawiyah, making him the first king Malik in Islam and the best of them all. The reason some of the ulama use the title Malik for the Umayyad and Abbasid caliphs was because these caliphs were not following completely in the footsteps of the Prophet Muhammad when it came to the ruling. Abu Bakr, the first caliph, was given this title because Khalifa means successor, and Abu Bakr was a successor of the Prophet in ruling as mentioned previously. If the caliph deviated from the Sunnah, then calling him a Khalifa wasn't deemed appropriate. This is the understanding the Sahaba had of the difference between the king and the Khalifa, not in terms of sovereignty but in terms of justice. Umar ibn Khattab said, by Allah, I do not know whether I am a Khalifa or a king. For if I am king, then this is a tremendous matter. Someone said, Amirul Mu'minin, there is a distinction between the two of them. He said, what is it? He said, a Khalifa does not take except what is due, and he does not use it except in the right way. And you, praise be to Allah, are like that. The king treats people unjustly and takes from this one and gives to that one. Umar was silent. Hope Kennedy makes an interesting point that during the Umayyad period, many features of the caliphate became established and in time traditional in ways which continued long after the dynasty itself had been swept away. Among the most obvious of these were the rituals of inauguration. Caliphs were not crowned. A crown of the Byzantine or Persian sort would have represented an acceptance of all the traditions of ancient monarchy with its pomp and hierarchy, which the early Muslims rejected and sought to replace. Sultan this time is found in the Hadith and is used in general sense of authority, but also can refer to a ruler. The Prophet said, Man sakana al-badiya jaffa wa man ittaba'a sayda ghafala wa man ata sultan uftutin. He who lives in the desert will become rough, he who follows the chase will become negligent, and he who goes to a ruler sultan will be led astray. The Umayyad and Abbasid caliphs doesn't use the title sultan as this title was used by the semi-autonomous governors who ruled the lands of the caliphate from the 10th century CE. Starting with the Buyuds, 38, and then later the Seljuks, and finally the Ottomans. The rulers of these lands held the exclusive authority of the caliphate, rendering the caliph to a more ceremonial position. Al-Radi, 1934 940 CE, was the last independent Abbasid caliph since the rise of the Buwahids in 1934 CE, and the establishment of the Emirate of Iraq and the central and the southern Iran, which reduced the caliph's executive power to the Darul Khilafah, which was a section of Baghdad that housed the caliphal palace. Al-Khatib died 463 1071 CE. Means Al-Radi was the last of the caliphs who undertook the sole direction of the army and the finances. After Radi, his brother Al-Mutaqim, 1944, assumed the rule after him, and Al-Suyuti says about him that he had nothing of authority but the name. Ibn Khaldun comments, from the time of Al-Nasir 1130 to 1225 on, the caliphs were in the control of an area smaller than their king ring around the moon. The Ottoman Sultan Bayezid I was the first to be granted the title Sultan by the Abbasid Caliph Al-Muwakil. Based within the Mamluk Sultanate in Egypt, Mona Hassan described how Bayezid sent previous gift to the Abbasid Caliph Al-Mutawakkil along with the request to be honored as his deputed ruler of Anatolia or Sultan al-Rum in 797-1394, a request which was granted. This splitting of the Sultanate and the Caliphate, that is the splitting away of the exclusive authority from the Caliph, continued in this way until 1517 CE, when the Ottoman Sultan Selim I united the institution of Sultanate and the Caliphate once again. This is why the Ottoman Caliphs all used the title Sultan after this time until 1902, when the Sultanate was officially abolished, handing exclusive power to the Turkish Parliament. 2 years later, on that March 1924, the office of the Caliphate was abolished. Shadow of Allah, Zilullah. This title was used by the Ottomans, and a plaque bearing this phrase from the hadith below still exists on the imperial gate of the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. This title comes from the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, where he said, "As-Sultanu Dillullah fil ard faman akramahu akrama Allah, wa man ahanahu ahana Allah." At-Tabarani wal Bayhaqi and Abi Bakra. The Sultan is the shadow of Allah on the earth, so whoever honors him, the Sultan, Allah will honor him, and whoever despises him, Allah will despise him. First among equals. This is not a lie as such. Description of Muawiyah by the famous Greek chronicler Diophanes. It is an interesting perspective on the Caliph from someone outside the religion who viewed the rule of the Caliph, in this case Muawiyah, as one of justice. Aisha Beweli says, "The ruler is a guardian, a custodian, and a shepherd, not a despot." Diophanes, the Greek chronicler of early Umayyad times, was surprised by the status of Muawiyah, the first Umayyad Khalifa, and refers to him as a protos symbolos, first among equals. Conclusion. The head of a future Islamic State needs to use the title Caliph in order to dispel any confusion among the Ummah, and so he can be recognized as the leader, not just of the new state, by the entire Muslim world. This will facilitate global support from the Muslims. Albeit in the beginning this will be slow, since any state needs to prove itself and its Islamic credentials on the world stage. The emergence of a state which declares itself a caliphate and its ruler a caliph must be judged on its actions, which is why Ibn Jama said the Caesar of power itself gives authority. In other words, if there is a ruler and is implementing Islam and has full authority over his territories, then he is the ruler. He may even be a caliph if he receives a valid bayah regardless of what he calls himself, and regardless of whether some of the minor or recommended contractual conditions of the bayah, such as being from Quraysh, are present or not. It should be based from the future caliphate's domestic and foreign policy that it is a real deal, and not just another state giving lip service to Islam and Muslim interests. Lofty Pasha says, if asked who is Sultan Suleiman, he is a leader of our time or not, then we answer as follows. No doubt he is the leader of our time.